not released to the public. The strength of the Orion Project and with the work we've done in the past with the disclosureproject.org is that we know how to get information out to the public and also in front of a lot of key leaders in the world, and that once we have this, any of these devices up and running and proving that you can create a large quantity of energy from the water into the hydrogen and oxygen, and our goal is to actually close the loop on that, meaning that if you, for example, have a generator running off of one of his electrolyzer systems that's breaking down hydrogen and oxygen into water, to take some of that output power that the generator is creating from being run on the Brown's gas and put it back into the system, so you basically close the loop so that you have a system only running on water with no input power from the grid or from any other source. This kind of breakthrough would be something that would revolutionize thinking around the world when it comes to energy solutions, the energy crisis, the environmental crisis, and we'd have the ability to get this in front of key people in society and in the media and also in the political establishment who, frankly, do not know about these things, and if they're asked about it, are routinely told it doesn't exist. So what we have to do is provide that information to the people who are looking for these solutions so that these new energy solutions are properly supported and are leveraged quickly out to the public. Our goal is to get this information out as soon as possible, and we have a network of just extraordinary people. I mean, I was recently in Hollywood meeting with a major filmmaker and producer and director, and this is all being followed by a lot of folks who are very interested in this and who have a wide array of contacts. We have similar contacts in the governments in Europe and in the United States government with the new administration that's coming in, and also in Congress. And so what we need to be able to do is put the data and put a proof of principle system that's actually operating in front of them. And I think that that could happen relatively quickly with this equipment that we're getting from the Stan Meyer collection that we're going to be taking possession of, I think, in the next few weeks. I hope within the next 2 or 3 weeks. And so what we'll see then is the ability to really change the dialogue in society about energy solutions away from, say, quote, clean coal, where we're still, one of the euphemisms that's out there, and of course this was talked about by both presidential campaigns, is clean coal, where they're still talking about spending something upwards of $30 billion in taxpayer money to study how to burn coal and sequester the carbon. But what they're not talking about is that the coal, for example, coming from West Virginia and Kentucky, most of it now is coming from what's called MTR, mountaintop removal, where they literally are blowing up, and you should look at the Sierra Club report on this that came out recently. They're blowing up the entire mountaintops of this whole area of the United States, of beautiful forests and streams, so that they can then have these huge shovels just excavate coal. And it is causing so much pollution, not only of the air and water, but the complete destruction of the mountains in the Blue Ridge and Appalachian chain. And this is how we're getting the coal. So even if you burn it cleanly, which is an open question, and you spend the tens of billions of dollars to get there, to get the coal out of the ground is an environmental holocaust. It's a catastrophe. And so, while all that money is going into that kind of, frankly, nonsensical, non-solutions, pseudo-solutions to the energy and environmental crisis, there's really no attention being paid to these really huge breakthroughs in physics and science that people like Stan Meyer had stumbled across. As I mentioned, his was almost an accidental finding because he was working in a radar facility where at certain frequencies and voltages he observed water dissociating into hydrogen and oxygen at very low amounts of power. And so this is the kind of thing that has to be supported by our society. And the only way that's going to happen is to get these systems up and running and putting them in front of the media, in front of the public, and in front of the policymakers. So we say, hey, look, this is the kind of solution that we need that would be very, very fast and would be applicable to many settings, and which would clean up the environment, create jobs, and give us a source of energy that's non-polluting.
This is just one of many of these technologies. I think some people have said that some of these technologies belong in the weird science desk, but there are others that we are working on as well, besides the Stan Meyer technology. But they're still we're still working with several different teams. Some of the stuff has been mentioned on the Orion Project in the past, but we're working with several other teams with other types of technology, but they aren't at a point where we can talk about it in any kind of detail yet. Did you want to make any comments about that, Dr. Greer?
Well, yes, I think that one of the things that we are in the process of investigating. There are two different teams that have electromagnetic generator systems, and some initial tests that we have done with one of them was that it was around between 4 and 6 times more energy coming out of it than going in. This was this was not a water system. It was purely an electromagnetic system. And there is another team that we're working with in another country that is in the final processes of testing a 20-kilowatt generator that on their initial tests have shown that the input battery power going into it has stayed completely, the battery actually had a better charge at the end of a multi-kilowatt run for 4 hours than it did at the end of it, at the beginning of it, and that it apparently is running on a, quote, over-unity basis, accessing the so-called quantum vacuum flux field in the electromagnetic field. So we have a couple of teams of people, and then there's a third one as well that's working with a university. And so we are in the process of investigating those at the same time that this major breakthrough has happened with the OrionProject.org getting the Stan Meyer equipment awarded to it. So we've been very busy, to say the least. I've been living on jets going back and forth all over the place in the last month, and there's a lot happening, and we really need the support from the public and from also major donors, if there are people out there listening who know of folks who could be major sources of funding for this type of research. It is urgently needed, and they should go to the OrionProject.org and let us know how they can help us and how we can work together in a partnership to get this technology out to the public, start a new energy environmentally friendly economy, and support the kind of scientists that we're working with who have been working for many years. One scientist, for example, has been working for 18 years on a system that we went out and we actually had a PhD engineer, a guy who was trained at Stanford, test this system, and the preliminary tests on it are quite remarkable because under every kind of measurement we could do, there was between 4 and 6 times more wattage and power coming out of the system than had to go in to run it. So obviously at that level you can close the loop, as I mentioned before, have the system run itself and also run a load. And so we are wanting to support and are in the process of supporting researchers who are doing this kind of breakthrough out-of-the-box thinking. And this is the kind of research that we need to do, and we need to be talking about supporting this with not a few $1,000s, but with several $1 million in funding. And so this is what we're really asking the public to find for us within the public, because we put so much funding into things as a people that really have not gone anywhere, whether it's hot fusion reactors through the Department of Energy, or the Missile Defense Shield, or clean coal, or you name it, biofuels, which are, as I mentioned, to really create more environmental problems than they solve, in taking the overall picture. And even electric cars. It's interesting, a study just came out that the electric car, if you are running it on a grid, plugging it into your home or business that's being supplied by a coal-fired power plant, it actually